You know.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very, very pleased to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And, of course, we are coming to you from the Bradshaw Bourbon Studios, which I've added my bourbon to some hot water, honey, lemon, and a few other fine things. In other words, it's a hot toddy, which... well, that happens when you got a head cold. Anyway.
Yes, it does, and they're delicious.
Oh, they are spectacular, and it's going down really, really well tonight. Hello to everybody as they jump in the chat, all of our usual regulars, and we always welcome anybody else that wants to come in too. Thanks to everybody that listens and watches on their own. We are thrilled to have you guys join us each and every week. Obviously, we're going tonight because the Steelers will be in action on Thursday night. I don't know what the hell happened on Sunday, but we're going to dive into that. We're going to go. We're going to get Ian's thoughts. He was live on the scene from the stadium where there were multiple delays because of lightning. When did we become such a wuss society? Lightning, for God's sakes. Get out there and play football and all that other stuff. But gentlemen, welcome. Let me ask the most important question. I've already disclosed what I'm drinking tonight. Scarps, what are you enjoying this fine Tuesday evening?
I have a little bit of Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio.
Yeah. Sophisticated.
Scarpizio with the
Grigio?
Pinot Grigio.
Is that a wine spritzer there, Scarps?
It's Pinot Grigio. It's just
It's
no,
just
there's
wine?
no spritz. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just
wine,
wondering,
man.
how fancy you were getting.
My bad. I thought you were busting a stone. Sorry.
I was.
Ben
I was
rocking
wondering how fancy you were getting.
The Brady and Belichick are Jagoffs shirt tonight. And as we were talking about before the show, not too much longer he'll be able to wear that. But either way, it's a fantastic look. What are you drinking tonight, Ben?
I haven't decided yet. Probably gonna drink some. I don't know.
He's got like a huge cart next to him, just loaded with booze.
Blade and Bow.
I like the sound of that.
That's some fancy whiskey. Maybe we'll give that a shot tonight. Kentucky
right.
bourbon, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey.
But what was it called?
Blade and Bow.
Man, it's a tough name. I like that.
Yeah.
Ian, did you make a choice? I know you had it narrowed down.
I did make a choice, so I'm actually not drinking whiskey tonight. I am drinking Mount Gay Barbados rum, and it is delicious. And
Outstanding.
I'm drinking it just like whiskey on the rocks in a glass. So
all right.
He is pretending that he's someplace warm.
That's right.
Yes.
He is,
after sitting through that cold rain, multiple delays on Sunday.
Yes,
I'm thinking about Barbados and the rum that is made there.
So
it is delicious.
Let me just get right to it, Ian. You were there at the game, and as someone who has sat through bazillions of weather delays for my son's sports career, I know what it's like. What I don't know what it's like is to do it with 60,000 of your closest friends. What the hell was that setting and that scene like when the team's playing like shit? The weather keeps interfering. What's the vibe like around there?
I mean, the vibe wasn't good to begin with. So getting close to halftime, the sky's getting darker, and I'm kind of looking up. It's starting to sprinkle a little bit. And the weather, the weird thing about the weather was on Saturday, it said, there's a good chance it's going to rain tomorrow. I wake up Sunday morning, I check my phone. The forecast says, oh, there's like a 30% chance of rain. It had gone down. It was just in like a 1 hour time window. The rest of the day was clear. Like the little icon on the Weather Channel was just a cloud. There wasn't even any rain coming out of it.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I'll bring a jacket that can work in the rain, but I'll, be prepared for it not to rain. And then, the skies opened up and it started to rain pretty hard. And the wind wasn't blowing so much in the stadium, but the flags up on top were moving pretty good. So you could tell higher up the wind was going. And then, the Cardinals drive it down 99 yards right before halftime.
Right.
Or was that? Yeah, that was right before halftime.
Before half.
And then, they have the ball inside the 10-yard line. And all of a sudden, there's a flash across the sky, and the whole stadium does that "ooh" thing that people do whenever they see lightning.
Of course.
And I think it was the very next play was the touchdown that got called back, and then at that point, when they went to review, a bunch of people started getting out of the seats. We left our seats. We got down into the Great Hall because we're on the lower level.
Right.
And then they overturned the call, made it an incomplete pass, and then they ran another play and scored a touchdown.
Right.
And at that point, it was pretty much like the Steelers kneeled it out and went into half, and that was it. And we're all kind of checking the radar on our phones in the Great Hall. They actually put the radar up on the TV screens, and everyone's kind of looking at it like, this is going to pass us by. We'll probably be able to play again.
Of course.
And, maybe halftime gets extended a little bit, but they're already in the locker room, so it should be good after that. So halftime gets extended. They're not really making many announcements or anything. Right. Just kind of pops up on all the TV screens, and we got fairly far into the Great Hall, like, play will resume at whatever it was, 3 p.m. or 3:20. And, and the stadium staff did a pretty good job of keeping people, back into the Great Hall. So everyone's, kind of trying to take peeks out, see if the sun's poking out. And, I'm checking Twitter because I'm getting more information on Twitter than they're giving us in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there with my dad, who we're just kind of like, we'll see what happens, And we're just kind of talking about the game at that point, like, oh shit, so Arizona's going to get the ball to start the second half. We got to figure out a way to stop them. This could go from bad to worse. And so there's a little delay. We come back out, and I could only think of one other time in my Steelers going career, and it was during a preseason game where there was lightning in the area, but it was during warm-ups of the game, so they just started the game late.
Yes.
But other than that, I can't think of any times I've actually been there when a game was delayed.
I couldn't
so
think of any other.
This was a rare experience. And especially for, thunder and lightning in the beginning of December in Pittsburgh is weird. It was like 52 degrees. It was relatively warm. So, we all get back out to our seats, and
how was the crowd attendance at that point?
At that point, it wasn't bad. Not many people left at halftime. When people really left, when I saw people like pouring out onto the street, was the second delay. The second delay once again happened when Arizona was driving. There was a bolt of lightning, and they scored a play or two later. Yeah. And so both of Arizona's first two touchdowns were preceded by lightning. So that was fun. And thunder that was kind of rumbling. And at that point, when they said, teams are going back to the locker rooms, fans need to get out of the seating bowl and seek shelter on the concourses or in the Great Hall, there was a lot of people that left at that point. And I'd say, we stuck it out just to kind of see how long it was going to be, because checking the radar at that point, it looked like there was kind of just one cell that was pretty bad, and once it moved through, they'd be fine. But there was more thunder and more lightning at that point, and I'm texting my wife, and she's like, we had like almost hail here. Like, it was pretty strong, and I live like couple miles outside the city, so not that far, but didn't see any hail or anything at Heinz Field, or Acrisure Stadium or whatever it is. But I think the second delay was the harder one, because we'd given up another touchdown, and Kenny's out, and at that point, a lot of people had just had it. They were fed up. Like, it's halfway through the third quarter, and my dad and I were kind of like, we'll stick it out. We'll see if they come out and actually do anything, because that second touchdown they scored was after the Mason Cole's terrible snap that gave them a short field, and kind of like, we'll see if they do anything. If they get back in this, we're gonna stick it out. And then So we hung around until the Cardinals pinned us like back inside the 5-yard line, and we not only did we go 3 and out, but with like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, down 2 touchdowns, we showed zero urgency. Right? They were huddling up, they were snapping the ball with 5 seconds left in the play clock. They showed no sense of like, we need to pick this up and get things moving a little bit to try and get back and win this game. And at that point, we're just like, and then Killebrew got that penalty after the punt, and they had the ball on the 30-yard line.
His third penalty.
His third penalty. Your special teams captain. Yeah, we're just like, at that point, it's like, F this. They're done. We're out of here, you know? Yeah. So that was kind of the vibe of it. But there was, I'd say, less than half of the stadium that came, less than half the fans that came back after that second delay, because at that point, you know, I think, especially for people that have to drive, it's a long, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Didn't it feel to you like they were just in quicksand? Like, I mean, it just like constantly, they just couldn't get out of their own fucking way. I mean, it's just constantly mistake after mistake after mistake after. I mean, pre-snap penalties, just dumb shit.
All varieties of mistakes.
It was honestly, they were
mental mistakes were terrible.
Yeah. They were rolling up until Kenny got hurt. Like their first drive, they drove it down well. They hit that nice pass to Pickens.
Yep.
They had to settle for a field goal, but it was kind of like, all right, we can move the ball on this team. Then they got a defensive stop, got decent field position back, and we're moving the ball again, drove it all the way down to the 1-yard line. And, you know, I was all for going for it. You know, when Kenny fell down and got stopped, I was like, they need to go for this. They need to try and punch this in. And then when Kenny got hurt, I was kind of like, ooh, you're going to bring in a cold quarterback off the bench to run a 4th and 1 play from the goal line. Maybe you should think about kicking this. And then they put him in shotgun. And I was like, this play's doomed before it starts. You're putting Mitch Trubisky, who hasn't taken a snap in a game in weeks since Kenny got hurt that other time. And I'm like, this is a bad move here. It just seemed the vibes on that play just seemed bad after, you know, Kenny had to get taken off. Mitch comes in and they put him in shotgun. I was like, I was like, I wonder if they're just going to try and draw him off sides. And then they got stuffed. And that was the momentum turning point in the game. And after that, you're right. It was what I call compounding mistakes. So like if you're playing a game of chess and you lose a piece, right? Then you try and make up for it by making these super aggressive moves and then wind up losing 3 or 4 more pieces because you start playing stupid. So it's like that is making compounding mistakes that they just played stupid. And I'll be done now because I talked for a while. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, so Ian, you brought up a point, and Big Ben's Burger did. It said I had a monumental week on Twitter because people don't like facts and objectivity.
Damn you and your facts.
Here's where I disagree with you, and this is what frustrated me from the replies on Twitter this week. And you said like we were rolling. Pickett's first 2 throws, he connected with Pickens on both of them for 51 yards. He ended up 7 of 10. For 70 yards. So that means that he was 5 of 8 on his final throws for 19 yards. And then after the first drive where we inexplicably, had to kick a field goal because we can't get out of our own way, we went 3 and out. Then we had a drive where we didn't go 3 and out, but we had the punt. Then we had another 3 and out. And then we had the drive where Kenny got hurt. So I disagree. I don't think we were rolling at all. I thought we missed opportunities against a shitty defense, and whether the Pickett maniacs want to believe this or not, he literally got hurt because he refuses to either time a throw, stay in the pocket, or trust his offensive line. And I know they have their problems too, but like literally, it is his own fault that he got hurt. And I was told, Pickett was killing it before he got hurt. 7 of 10 for 70 yards. Oh, holy average, Batman. Oh, my God. Like, it is so frustrating right now where this team is. And I'm not even saying we lost because of Pickett. I don't think he was the main reason we lost at all. But he's part of a major problem. And, he gets hurt all the time.
It's the 5th time in I believe 24 career games he's left.
I don't disagree with you, Ryan.
On On
Yeah.
the
Ian, I
touchdown-
never pick on you, but I'm in a mood this week, babe.
It's fine. No, that's a very fair point that, we did have those 3 and outs of those 2 short drives when we could have put more points on the board to distance ourselves early from this team, and we let a bad team hang around, and you see what happens. But Ryan, to your credit, last week on the show you said, hey, we're going to need to score 40 or no 40, we're going to need to score 24 points to beat this team, and lo and behold, they put 24 on the board. So props to you, Ryan.
Wait till you hear my prediction for this week.
2 things. One, on that attempt where Kenny got hurt, he followed the play. He had one read, and then he was supposed to dive. And I think it's a horrible play selection. I also think that Ben would have looked at that and been like, up your ass. I'm not running that. That's stupid. And he would have seen an open Calvin Austin in the corner and gone, touchdown. Okay, yeah, I didn't run what you said, but we scored, right? So it's all good.
And
right?
And it would have had to been timed, but you're right. If it was Ben, it would have been timed. It would have been a touchdown, no doubt.
Yes, no question. And the other thing, and we talk about this on this show all the time. You made the point before about how they couldn't get out of their own fucking way in the red zone, and that's been a theme all season.
Yeah.
And the teams that win consistently score touchdowns in the red zone. Even Mason fucking Rudolph, who sucks, can move the ball between the 20s. All right. He can. So if you want to be better than Mason, you got to score touchdowns. You got to do it. And I agree with you. I don't think that Kenny's the reason they lost, but I think that Kenny was incredibly mid on Sunday, as the kids would say.
Yeah. I noticed the rainbows on Sunday, and being a fan of the late great Ronnie James Dio, I was thinking of the rainbows in the dark there as they spread across the black sky. And I'm just thinking to myself, where are these rainbows going? Because there's no pot of gold. It's got to be a pot of crap, because it just got worse and worse. And Ben made the point that it looked like these guys, the Steelers, were just in mud or in quicksand, whatever. As the game got longer and longer, it got worse and worse. And it felt like that way to me, Ryan.
And I'm telling you right now, man, that 99-yard drive
was a killer.
Was just...
Well, you know, what they did was, and it was brilliant. I have to give the Cardinals coaches fucking credit. They came out with a great game plan. Landon Roberts goes out right before that drive.
That was
okay.
Huge.
And their game plan was already, we're going to attack these off the ball linebackers. He goes out, and it was over. They were rushing for 2 yards a clip before he went out. After that, it was a little bit over 5.
Yep.
It's shit like that kills you. And people weren't getting set. There was nobody there calling the fucking...
Lots of communication
Oh, my
issues.
God.
And
it was such a pain in the ass.
You know, the thing that's infuriating about it is that Gene Steratore said that Trey McBride first play should have been a touchdown. It should have stayed.
I thought it was.
And the ref's like incomplete. It's like, Jesus Christ, we don't even know what it is anymore. But I want to say that besides James Conner, who was very quiet early on, and Trey McBride, who's the only guy on offense that you know of besides Kyler Murray? Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. And he didn't do anything. He was hurt. He had 3 targets. He didn't do anything.
Nope.
And you got guys like Greg Dortch, who dropped the ball, and that would have been really nice. Their other guy, Michael Wilson, didn't even play. And then you got Higgins, who made some big plays. And then Michael Carter, who had a huge game. I mean, he broke so many tackles, we couldn't get him on the ground. Yep. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, Jesus Christ.
Nice.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like, once again, man, this so-called great defense can't handle a half-decent quarterback or team or offense.
We got guys at linebacker that literally were unemployed 4 weeks ago. One of them was on the practice squad for 3 weeks.
We're going to have 2 guys this week who
disagree.
Likely were absolutely unemployed.
Okay. You got Trenton Thompson playing safety, and that dude cannot tackle. He's athletic, and he's okay. He can make some plays on the ball. But the dude cannot tackle at all. And so they were just sending it right up the middle. Yep, let's just go up the middle. Let's just run it past TJ and fucking Alex Highsmith, and we'll do this instead.
I want to address this issue of did we take the Cardinals lightly? Because obviously Mike Tomlin is saying no, that's not the case. We don't do that here. But you had Jalen Warren, Deontay Johnson, Dan Moore to an extent, all pretty much say Mason Cole. Yeah, we kind of took them lightly. Ian, what is that signal to you as a fan when you hear that?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, they're not on the same page, which is very rare for a Mike Tomlin team. Usually his teams are all on the same page from a communication standpoint, that, this is the message we're going to say about what happened in the game. And, whatever happened out there, good, bad, or indifferent, like, here's the message we're going to put out there to the fans, the media, whatever it is, of why what transpired on the field transpired. And they're just not cohesive at this point in any respect, whether it's, they're not cohesive as far as their play on the field. They're not cohesive as far as the message they're putting out in the locker room. It's just not a good look overall. They just don't seem like a team. They seem like a collection of individuals.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, Ryan, you've been in that locker room. You know when things are said that don't exactly jibe with what other people are saying.
Make one quick point?
Go ahead.
And then I want to get Ryan's perspective on this specifically. The thing that bothers me about players saying, I think we took them too lightly.
Yes.
Is not that they're saying it, because obviously you fucking took them too lightly. It's that they're taking it to the media.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with them talking about it at all.
That's exactly where I wanted this conversation.
The problem I have is that they're not keeping it in-house. It should be discussed among players and coaches. Yeah. Why did we take these guys too lightly? What's going on? What did we do? Let's talk about what we did. Let's point the finger back at us. Instead, it seems like a handful of guys are kind of pointing the finger at everybody else. Well, except for Jalen Warren. He seemed embarrassed. But no, and Mason Cole, excuse me, he didn't finger point. He just said, I thought we had a great week of practice. Things went well, and then the game started, and it just seemed like we didn't, didn't rise to the occasion.
And it was everything. It wasn't, we didn't do this well, or we didn't do. There was tons of stuff they didn't do well.
Yeah, it just feels like there were a couple of guys who are kind of pointing fingers as opposed to looking at themselves and and going, it's going to be okay. We'll get it right. Don't worry. But it just kind of feels like there's some finger pointing going on there. And that's what's concerning to me. Is that just about frustration, or, what the fuck? Is it locker room leadership? To me, that's where I look. I'm like, why aren't the vets tying this shit up and going, what are you doing?
So somebody, a Hayward should be given the evil eye anytime a camera's in front of a guy's face, like, hey, don't say anything stupid, kind of a thing. But Ryan, what's your take on this?
I could talk about this forever. I understand post-game remarks, heat of the moment, and Jalen Warren's a young guy and he doesn't know any better, and the PR staff really doesn't get a lot of time before the media is allowed in the locker room. So
good point.
So there might be only a few seconds, maybe a minute or two, where you can go to somebody and say, "Hey, they're definitely going to ask you about this. I'm just giving you a heads up," and whether that's a fumble, an interception, or Deontay Johnson. We'll talk about that later. But that's so I get the post game remarks, but when the coach comes out the next day or on a Tuesday when he normally talks and says, "No, this is the NFL, man. We don't take anybody lightly. This isn't homecoming or whatever."
Right.
And then literally the fucking next day, Deontay Johnson reiterates what he said. It was like, yeah, I think we took him lightly. It's like, oh my fucking God. Like we had our own, like we had specific guys that we dealt with, but then there was the general locker room, which I handled. Yes, I had my guys, but I had the general locker room, and I'm not even fucking kidding you. It would be 10, 15 minutes before the media were allowed in, and they would come out of team meetings, and I would literally make a general announcement to 53 dudes and be like, do not fucking talk. I didn't say the F word, but do not talk about bulletin board material. Do not talk about this. If they ask about the loss, just say we're moving on to the next game.
Yep.
And I mean, fuck you, Scarpino. It's like, whatever, okay, fine. Whatever. I don't care. Like I at least I know that they heard me.
You heard you exactly.
And I always took that as like a sign of respect that they heard me. They're not, and then but I can't
doing what I do. I totally relate to that.
But I can't tell you the number of times though, like before, like a guy would do an interview, like a Pouncey or not necessarily Cam, but like a Pouncey or like even an Aaron Smith or somebody like that would like fuck with me and be like they'd wink at me. They'd be like, I'm gonna tell them that Tom Brady sucks or something, like, you know what I mean? Like just like being a dick. So that being said, if you just heard, I just mentioned one of the most underrated Steelers defensive linemen of all time, who was there forever, and probably the Steelers, one of the best centers of all time for the Steelers, who was there for 10 years.
Yep.
They are not on the same page on the field. They are not on the same page off the field, and it is literally, Big Bedsburger talked about this earlier, but I've been tweeting a little extra this week because I have some certain feels about some stuff, and you and
I were pretty popular this week.
Oh yeah,
yes.
you hater,
you two are mean girls.
You hater. But no, like I'm not trying to pick on their PR staff because I've been gone 7 years now and it's totally different. But it's really, really not that hard to get with these guys and tell them what the head coach said. We got, you text the guy ahead of time, you talk to the guy ahead of time, you see him in the locker room ahead of time. And, if there's one thing right now that you can't do, it's show that you're not unified. And they are showing that they're not unified on every front. And it is so fucking infuriating because and maybe he said this and I do not remember this, but like I could never picture a Troy Polamalu being like, yeah, we took them lightly. We didn't prepare enough. Like I remember we got our asses kicked in New England in 2013 and Ryan Clark literally was just like, that is not Steelers football. I apologize. They like he didn't say we took them lightly or like, and like Tom Brady was throwing to nobodies. Like he was throwing to like Kimbrel Tompkins and shit. And I just
was that the Shamarko Thomas game or whoever it was? Who was that scrub safety who was like, Tom Brady's
Smith.
not that good?
No. That was the first time he killed us. Right? That was the first time he killed us. This is 2013. We gave up 55 points, a record on the road.
That's right. Yeah.
But
that wasn't the week 1 game. That was a different year.
Yeah, right. We were 0-4, got to 2-4, and then they made us 2-6, and then we got to 8-8. But regardless, like Ryan Clark was like, we got our asses kicked. That's embarrassing. I apologize to Dick LeBeau. I apologize to the fans. Like he didn't sit there and say, Tom Brady had scrub receivers, and we took them lightly. Like that is such like, oh God,
different.
Sorry, go ahead. They're so infuriating. And
I want to comment on something that Matt said in the chat because it's something that we talked about this week. Sam Alu has a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles. And outside of him, there's really not that type of leadership. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, we all have tremendous respect and love for Cam Hayward. I mean, that's never going to change. But guy hasn't exactly won in the postseason. So you are lacking that. Ben, how big is that compared to what Tomlin had when he came in to coach the Steelers?
I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily the leaders. I just think that those teams in the late 2000s were tighter. It was just a tighter group. They were a really, really good defense, obviously.
Yeah.
But they were just tighter. I mean, all those guys still talk about what a great group it was to be a part of, and how much pride they took in being a part of that group. And I just don't think we have that right now, and people want to point at coaching. And coaching's a part of it. But to me, it comes back to locker room leadership. And I love Kevin Colbert. He did a lot of things for the Steelers for a couple of decades that, dude, look back at his track record and you're like, holy shit. But like the last 4 or 5 years of Kevin's tenure in Pittsburgh, I think are going to be looked back at with some questions, and some of that was drafting, and some of it was suspect trades, trading, giving a 5th round pick away every year for some guy that you were going to have for half a season, and then he was gone, and who didn't really do that much for you anyway. It was shit like that. And, it probably was time for Kevin to move on. But this roster just is not that talented. And I don't know how difficult it is to try and lead a group of guys who don't have a common direction because they're so busy trying to up their own game, bring themselves up to the level where they're playing at the same level as their peers, the guys they see every week. I don't know what that's like, when you're on a team where you have a unit that's really, really fucking good, like the Steelers had in the 2000s.
Right.
It's a little bit easier to focus on team rather than focusing on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of these guys are just trying to develop their own game, and all those pieces aren't quite there.
So I'm going to – are you done? I don't want to talk over you, but I want to jump off of that. When you said they're trying to develop their own game, my mind immediately jumped to they're building their own brand, that they're marketing themselves, that this generation of players.
I'm not just talking about wide receivers, but yes.
No. But I think there's something with this there's a generational divide, because when you think back to those 2000s teams, right? Like the Super Bowl video that the team released was called like a Band of Brothers or a Brotherhood of Champions. It was Brotherhood of Champions was what it was. Band of Brothers was the HBO show, but like it was Brotherhood of Champions. But like they had that cohesion. They were a very selfless group.
Right.
Like other than like it was a big deal when James Harrison was on the cover of that magazine with the guns, because people were like, "Whoa, he's really like stepping outside the group." And Ryan shakes his head. I know, but like
Scarf can see his flip phone up right now.
Do you want to talk about Ben Roethlisberger's transgressions next time?
My broader point though was that like those guys weren't guys going out there trying to market themselves, right? And even the guys who are the leaders on this team, the Cam Haywards of the world, he's been out there really trying to market himself and think about his career after football and all that stuff too.
He's got his own podcast.
Yeah,
yes, he does.
Not as good as ours.
Hell no. A couple steps below. Nice job.
Sorry,
Cam.
Ian. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. That I think this generation cares more about themselves as individuals than maybe they do about the team as a whole. And I don't know if that's just the Steelers. I mean, you look league wide, I think it's indicative of the whole, younger generation of players. So I don't think it's just these guys, but I think it's a difference in personality. And I think to the point about locker room leadership, that when Tomlin came in as a young coach, I mean, he was like a year or two older than a couple of the oldest guys on the team at that point. And he really he had a good group with a lot of
less.
solid leaders that he
Yeah.
could rely on to help relay his message to the team.
Yep.
And he didn't have to have his fingers in every minute detail because those guys would take care of those things. And as those guys retired, I think he kind of assumed that other guys would step in and take their place. And that really hasn't happened as much. So I think now you've got a head coach who's never in his 16-year career been a guy to have his fingers in those minute details. And we've seen that, right? There's been guys that have said things like, oh yeah, like Tomlin was never the kind of, he was never like even like a Tom Coughlin or another, real strict head coach that's like, this is when film study is, and this is when you need to be in the building. And this one, it was always kind of like, these are the things we expect you to do as professionals. You're professionals. We're going to let you handle them. We're going to let your fellow players, the leaders in the locker room, kind of show you the way. But at some point, he's either got to adapt his coaching style, or they've got to go out and find those guys who are those leaders that can do that. Because he's still trying. It seems to me like he's trying to coach the way he coached in 2010.
I think that's a good point.
When he had that solid group of leaders that he could rely on, but he doesn't have that now, but he's still trying to coach the same way, which is why I think it seems very disjointed.
That was one of the reasons they brought on a Landon Roberts, and that was one of the reasons that they drafted a Kenny Pickett, because his intangibles were so great. I wish he was as good on the field, but they're trying to fill that void, and I agree with what you're saying. But I still think a lot of it is just these guys they're not that talented, and I think it's more difficult being in that position, trying to apply your talents as best you can to play up to that level. You want to be in the upper tier. You at least want to be in the top half of the guys. If you're a starter, the top half of all the guys in the league, right?
Yep.
There are 31 other guys that play your position. You want to be at least 15th minimum. And we got a lot of guys that aren't there. And and I think that struggle adds to the struggle to see the big picture, which is team first. This is about the team.
Yeah. Scarps, go ahead, finish up, and then I'll change direction.
I don't know. This is just an observation that I had, and I get a lot of stuff wrong, but the Steelers' two longest tenured / best players, if you will, are Cam and TJ, who were both first round picks. Cam, maybe, I don't think he ever will, but Cam might be a Hall of Famer one day. He's been there forever. TJ is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate consistently, but high pedigree, right? High pedigree.
Yep.
But when you go back and look at the guys that were there when I was there, Hines, third-round pick, constant chip on his shoulder, right? Like always doubted him. James Harrison, undrafted, cut 75 times. Aaron Smith was a fourth-round pick.
Right.
Yeah, Northern Colorado.
Northern
Right?
Colorado.
Yeah. Brett Kiesel was a seventh-round
pick.
Nate Washington wasn't there when I was there, but another undrafted guy that I just looked up. Like Nate Washington had like 7,000 career receiving yards in this league. Like he actually was decent after he left the Steelers. And then and he was a first round pick, but he didn't do anything with the Jets. James Ferrier didn't even really start for the Jets, and he was a first round pick for them. He started 1 year for them in 2001. And then he had a pretty good year. And then in 2002, he came here.
Yep.
So when you came into that locker room, you saw a guy. Ryan Clark was undrafted too. Troy didn't talk as much as but
Ike Taylor was a fourth-round pick.
Great call, Ike Taylor. Like Ben was a first-round pick, but Ben really wasn't the talker. But when you came into that locker room, you saw guys that that were probably more like you than they were first rounders, like guys that you're like, oh shit, man, if James Harrison, like, I know he's massive, but if James Harrison could do this, I can do it.
Yeah.
I always joke about Casey Hampton saying Ziggy Hood was grown up. I'm grown ass man strong. Ziggy Hood's weight room strong, but like that means something. Like when you're like, fuck, man, James Ferrier was a former first round pick and he didn't cut it, but he came here and he's amazing. Like, and on the flip side, if you are a first round pick, like when Cam was in 2011, was like, oh shit, man, I'm a first round pick, but I haven't done shit ever. Yeah. Like, right. But I got like, so I think that there is definitely a lack of veteran leadership. And Cam can only do so much. TJ does not, although he had some comments after the game, but
we'll get to that.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, I talked a lot. Go ahead.
I knowing what we know now after the loss, after a lot of the comments, I mean, you even had Freiermuth talking about, hey, this is ridiculous. We've known these formations for 3 years and we're still screwing it up and blah, blah, blah. Ben, do you think this team still makes the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay. Ian, do you think they still make the playoffs?
They're done in one round. Yeah, they make it.
It's going to be tough right now. I mean, they really have to win their next 2 games. I kind of thought they'd lose 1 out of 3, but I didn't think it would be this one to Arizona, and I didn't think they'd do it in the fashion that they did. But I think they and especially with what else happened around them. Like, I was looking at the playoff standings this morning, and I think I mentioned this on Slack. Like, right now, the playoff standings that you have somehow the Steelers in 5th place because of the tiebreakers, because you settled divisional tiebreakers first. And then you've got the Browns in 6th and the Colts in 7th. If I was a division leader right now, I would hope those 3 teams carry it out and make the playoffs, because the teams behind them, Houston, Denver, Buffalo, the Chargers, and throw Cincinnati into the mix. They had a pretty good showing against Jacksonville last night. But I'd be more scared of any of those teams making the playoffs that are currently out of the picture than I am of the 3 that are in. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if the 3 that are in the wild card slots right now all miss the playoffs, because Cleveland has a struggling quarterback situation. They've got a good defense, but they've got a lot of injuries. Indy's still playing with a backup quarterback, and is the bubble going to burst on that sooner or later? We've got our problems that we've detailed ad nauseum on this show. Houston's playing really well. Denver's on a hot streak. Buffalo's seemingly turning things around. And I mean, the Chargers are the Chargers, but they have Justin Herbert. So, if I was a division leader, I would hope that the current teams make the playoffs, because that makes for a much easier first round game.
Yeah. Scarps, do you think the Steelers make the postseason at this point?
I had them 10-7, but not making the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's fun. It's funny that all 4 AFC North teams could still somehow win 10 games, and two would be out. That was my prediction.
It's amazing.
I mean, it unfolded differently. I don't know.
And all 4 could win 10 games, and all 4 could make the playoffs too. Which that would be the first time that's ever happened.
Oh, yeah, that'd be the Bengals. Yeah, the Bengals, Bungles winning out. But I honestly don't know if this team is going to make the playoffs. And I'm leaning towards yes, but I really don't know.
Bottom line, this loss, and it's up to them. This loss can be the best thing that happened to them this season, or it can be the thing that made their season completely come unraveled, like 1998.
Yeah,
remember that year?
Yep.
Cowher lost the locker room, and that was terrible. They can either look at themselves, take this shit seriously, realize they're not talented enough to overlook anyone ever, and respond to that, or they can point some fingers at one another. I mean, Freiermuth saying we've had the same formations for 3 years. This is ridiculous. People can't get lined up in the right spot. They don't know the play. They don't know the responsibilities. I'm like, dude, Yeah, say all that. It's fine. But don't tell the fucking media that.
Right. And I get the frustration. I do. He's probably tired of talking to the same guys in the same meeting rooms about it. But I agree with you. You got to keep that shit in house.
Well, that and from a coaching standpoint, they were coached stupidly. The formations, the coverages were dumb. Not putting Freiermuth in for more plays. That third down pass that they threw to Little Hayward, Freiermuth would have pulled that in.
Yeah,
he would have. It was a nice pass. It was into double coverage. I didn't love the decision,
right?
But looking back at it, it was the right decision. And it was the only place he could go with the ball.
And he dropped, and that happened right in front of me where we were sitting. He dropped that ball in right. That was the only spot he could put it. It was right over the line.
That was a great
right
throw.
Between the safeties.
It was a great throw.
It was a great throw, and Hayward did have to kind of run around the linebacker to get to the ball. But I mean, you're right. If that's Freiermuth, he catches that because he's got longer arms. It's just
he might not score, but he's going to catch the ball. He's going to bring it in.
Oh no, he scores. I mean, it was right at the goal line.
At the goal line.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was about the 3-yard line or something. It was right there. I know.
Yeah.
Right.
But at some point too, if the players can't run the plays, why are the coaches still calling them? Like this has to come back on coaching at some point. That I feel like back in the day when we had Roethlisberger and say what you will about Arians or Haley or Wisenhunt or whoever, but if they were like, our guys can't run this play, they wouldn't call it again, which was why we never ran screen passes because they couldn't execute them. Like, I love Ben Roethlisberger, but he couldn't throw a screen pass to save his life. He was just terrible at that type of throw, and we never had a running back.
Pass.
Yeah, we never had a running back who could execute it either. So, like, we haven't thrown screen passes in decades because we just couldn't execute them.
No,
so
you got to go back to the Barry Foster days, I think.
Yeah, and to talk about player distribution, look at the offense. You had Najee Harris had 16 carries for 63 yards. Jaylen Warren had 9 carries, so about a little more than half for 59 yards. So he had about half as many carries for just 4 fewer yards. Like, they, for some reason, continue to put Najee in situations where you need a more explosive back on the field. Warren is clearly the more explosive back.
And why do you think that is?
Because he was a first-round pick, and they have to kind of try and prove themselves.
He was on the injury report today.
Pride.
He did not
it's
practice.
Pride. It's pride.
Is it?
Yes. You're right. And they're
is it, or
is
it the whole what does Tomlin talk about all the time? Football justice, and this guy gets opportunities because he works hard. Blah blah. I don't know.
That what?
Okay.
Sorry,
Najee
I don't disagree with either one of you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with either one of you. I think this is the NFL. The best players should play. The end.
Agreed.
Ian, finish. Ian, you got more?
Oh, no, I just said that Najee got 10 more snaps than Warren did, which is crazy for a game where you were trailing and needed more explosive plays.
I think, and now that I've had a little more Scarpino Grigio, I think one of the things that it's annoyed me about Tomlin this year is his not only his mannerism. Oh my God, I'm talking like him. His mannerisms in the press conference, but he's talked about football justice a lot this season, and he's referenced Kenny Pickett in that same sentence when it's and I sit there and think like, dude, are you like the Pickett maniacs where you're trying to manifest this guy to be better than he really is? Because like this whole football justice thing to me is bullshit. I mean, how many guys in the league do the right thing, work as hard as they can, and never get to start
and say all the right things,
and say all the right things?
Your favorite quarterback, Mason Rudolph. I'll give you that example. I'm being serious here. I'm not fucking with you.
This is a good point.
The guy has done all the right things. Yep. He's said all the right things. He works hard. He just can't get on the field. He had some chances. Didn't happen. It didn't work out. But he hasn't gotten as many chances as a lot of other guys. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. No,
oh my God, are you turning a new leaf, Benjamin?
Nope.
This is so cute.
I am not. I still think he sucks. So
No,
there's that.
but I think it's a really valid point that this of all the people, this is a guy that could go scorched earth and has taken the high road, and he really has it. Now, maybe when his career's over, he'll do that. He'll write
a
book,
tell-all
do
book.
an interview. I don't know, but I mean, cripe. Is it beyond the realist the idea that he could be back next year for all we know? Nobody else is going to want him.
Mason will be back next year, in my opinion.
Well,
but not Mitch, right?
What's that?
Mitch gone.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up.
I think one or the two of them will be gone. Yes.
This is going to be a bit of a resume building thing now for Trubisky. If he goes out and plays well these 4 games or so, it helps his resume going forward for other teams because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And if he doesn't,
Kenny Pickett starting 24 games and leaving 4 of them is a bit concerning.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely.
On top of the fact that he doesn't have the arm or upper body strength to make throws unless his mechanics are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer I watch him, the less convinced I am that he's an NFL quarterback.
I think that is a good way to put it. That's where I'm at.
Hey, just a point of clarification here, because I'm anal about this stuff and I can't let it go.
Ian said anal.
Mitch is not a free agent this year. He signed a 2-year extension this offseason, so his contract actually this year. Yeah, so it goes through 2025.
Yeah.
Well,
but I mean,
that's right. His original
contract was a 2-year deal, and he signed that extension. Yes.
That doesn't preclude him being cut or asking for a release.
Right. Yeah, and they could save cap money by cutting him. So
they could.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could.
And I think his extension was fairly incentive laden, so that he has a chance to earn some more money here. And the thing about Mitch, it's always been, he will take chances with the ball down the middle of the field. I mean, think back to that Ravens game that he had to start and threw 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
All of them were him taking chances in the red zone over the middle of the field on throws he didn't need to make. So
late in plays.
Yeah.
It's he
takes some dumbass sacks.
You've had the ball for 5 seconds. You don't throw the ball over the middle of the fucking field this late in the goddamn play. You know better. You're a veteran.
You should.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he said he's going to be aggressive this week, and I told you guys. I mean, that's great. That means a couple of touchdowns and probably as many picks.
Well,
so 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Can you imagine if he would have said, "I'm going to be conservative this week"? I mean, it is what it is.
Hey Ben, since you mentioned Mitch throwing 2 touchdowns, do you know how many touchdowns Kenny Pickett has thrown in the last 7 games?
7 games. 1?
Yeah,
1. It's 1. The answer is 1.
7 games.
7 games. Yeah. Kenneth Shane Pickett has thrown 1 touchdown pass.
I don't know about you guys. On Sunday, I was screaming when Kenny was still in the game. I was screaming, "Run the ball!"
Yes,
I was.
Yes, I was too.
I don't care how we get in the fucking end zone. As long as we do. And when they run the ball all the way down the field, and then when they get in the end zone, they try to throw it. I'm like,
no, same here. Same here. Was yelling the same thing. I don't care how many times you have to run the ball, run the damn ball to get it in the end zone.
Right.
Winning,
winning
is what matters.
Running in the red zone has worked really well for us. But you know what else has worked really well? Is giving the ball to Jalen fucking Warren. We had the ball 1st and goal from the 7.
Yep.
And gave it to Najee twice, and then Kenny scrambled up the middle and got tackled, and then we gave it to Najee again at the goal. We gave Najee 3 carries inside the 7-yard line, and he didn't get 7 yards. Like, you mean to tell me if we don't give Jalen Warren 3 carries from 7 yards out, he doesn't find a way to get in the end zone?
I agree.
You got to give the ball to the more explosive player.
It isn't just that. It's also this year, Jalen's shown more versatility with the passing game. So when he rolls into the backfield, you can't just say Jalen's getting the ball and it's going to come between the tackles, because when Najee's back there, Najee's getting the ball and it's coming between the tackles.
unless they get crazy with these tosses.
Which, oh gosh.
You want to talk about the most obvious thing they do, and it's much more apparent in the stadium that every time they bring Miles Boykin in, it's a running play. They're not putting Miles Boykin out at wide receiver if it's a passing play.
Very seldom.
And that is the biggest tell. Yeah. It's like, oh, this guy's in the game. It's a running play. And the Cardinals knew it too, because Kenny did the this symbol that goes back to Ben even did this thing which is basically a change the blocking alignment hand signal. But the Cardinals knew it. It was like, oh, he did this thing. It's a running play because he's changing where the blocking is. And it's like, you guys got to change some things up at some point in time.
Two things. Jamie just asked a question.
Was it this one?
Yeah. Okay. It's because Josh Allen was Mitch Trubisky's hype man. Josh Allen went out of his way to be like, oh, Mitch is a great teammate. He's a former first-round pick, number 2 overall pick, blah, blah, blah. But to Mitch's defense, I want to say this. That ball he threw to Connor Hayward was way better than any ball Kenny Pickett has thrown this year. And I
don't know about that, but it was a really nice pass.
I'm not even being facetious. Like Kenny Pickett,
I get it. It was a really nice throw. It was great.
Nice throw.
Every Kenny Pickett throw, it's like he's using every chesticle he has in his soul and the funniest thing about it is that he only throws it like 4 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. It is
watching the Jags and the Bengals last night, and I said this in the chat, watching Trevor Lawrence throw a wide receiver screen. That kid has such a cannon. I mean, the ball's in his hand off the snap, and it's gone. And with Kenny, it's just kind of like, get it, collect myself.
But hey, had similar numbers the first 6 starts, guys.
That's what he's going to turn into.
I'm done with Pitt. Big Ben's Bird, are you still on? Cheers, my man.
Yeah.
I am
I want to talk a little bit about TJ Watt's comments. And I thought that he did not pick a great time to air these comments. He's
got a legitimate beef, but I get it.
He absolutely has some legitimate gripes here, but it just wasn't the place to do it. And I'll let you get Ben. What is your take on what he said about
TJ Watt has 2 accepted holding penalties since 2021. 2. This is a dude who was held on every single play.
Yep.
And there were some on Sunday that were fucking egregious.
Yep.
Where the guy had him by the jersey and was pulling him the other direction.
Yep.
It was that bad. And he couldn't get a call. And I get it. He got frustrated and talked about it. And I agree with you. It's not what I would have liked to seen him do.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a legitimate gripe. He really does. I mean, that was fucking ridiculous. It's like, really? You're just going to let that shit go?
I just don't understand how we went from actually having to block a player to now you can physically, like, literally armbar a guy across his neck,
Well,
and
yeah, there's a rule specific to that. Basically, if the pass rusher tries to pull a hump on a guy, a hump move, and tries to go under,
right,
and move his arm up, the offensive tackle can lower his arm in front of him. So they're saying basically the pass rusher is hooking himself. And as long as the blocker is moving back toward the player trying to put himself back in position, they'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
It's funny you're talking about the 2 holding calls. The one I remember specifically was in the Titans game last year where he was being held by 3 different guys at the same time and
no call.
Did it or didn't it? I thought it did actually. Maybe
I don't think there was a call on that one.
Yeah, I'm sure there was one right after, but
it's not just the holding calls, but it's the false starts that the tackles are allowed to get away with. Too,
oh
right?
My God!
They're allowed to get back in their set. The other thing I wanted to mention about TJ though, that I don't know if this came through on the broadcast, but being in the stadium, it's a different experience. So there was that play where he got hurt, where it was kind of a friendly fire deal that him and Highsmith kind of both ran around the quarterback and collided.
That was when he was held so badly.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pissed.
He went out for a play, came back in, and the crowd was for a good reason concerned when TJ Watt was down on the field and then went out. He came back in, the entire crowd started chanting, TJ Watt, TJ Watt, TJ. Like, he had Heinz Field chanting his name. On the next play, he got his ass absolutely beat. Like, the offensive tackle that was going against him just like drove him all the way over to the sideline, and then they kind of were like fighting with each other on the sideline. But like, he got his ass smoked on that play when the whole stadium was chanting his name, and I was kind of like, ooh, that's and I was like worried that he was still hurt and had like come back in and I appreciate
he was limping around.
I still don't think he's 100%,
but yeah, it was
well, nobody is now.
Yeah, but I think that gets back to kind of what we talked about earlier of, James Harrison got held all the time too. He occasionally made reference to it, but didn't always, he wasn't one to come out and talk about it after a loss and be like, I'm getting held all the time and they're not calling it for me. They must be out. And James Harrison, like TJ Watt, was a defensive player of the year, also had finished in the top 5 in DPOY multiple, a few times. So it's not like other guys haven't faced the same thing. And heck, James Harrison arguably did have the league out for him with the penalties for the shots to the head, him bringing some of it on himself.
He had more argument than TJ. Yeah.
He brought some of it on himself by saying, I wouldn't piss on Goodell if he was on fire.
There was that.
I don't think anybody would.
He was pretty calm though when people
I'm sorry,
would ask
Ryan.
him about when people would ask him about how often he was held and how he felt about that after games, he'd just go, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really know when they're going to call holding, when they're not. They did tell me that that if I had my feet out in front of me, they would give me the call. And so basically what he started doing was flopping. When he got hooked like that, he would just run his feet out in front of himself so that he'd get a call.
Yeah. And I get it.
I get it too. They're not going to give you a fucking call.
Yeah, I thought it was very weird timing. And as we talked about earlier, like, whether TJ wants to acknowledge it or not, he's a leader, and he should not have talked about. He should have deflected the question, conveyed his message, and moved on. It sounded like sour grapes to me.
Yeah.
Because that defense got their asses kicked and they quit. That defense quit. I don't care. And I'm also going to say this about TJ. You can't get a call on every play. And second of all, hey, TJ, do you bitch when the offensive line doesn't block you and you get a free sack? I'm being serious right now. Go back and look at TJ Watt's career sacks. How many times does he get a sack where nobody even fucking touches him? They don't even care. So it's like, dude, you got to, like, bad timing. And also too, like, TJ Watt is a great defensive player. He's always in the conversation, but like, you're going to bitch about the refs talking about, bitch about the refs because you didn't get the holding call. But like, when the offensive tackle literally is like looking this way and you're already 4 yards past them and you have a clear shot to the quarterback, you don't bitch. So it's just like, dude, like be a leader in that situation. Say, I don't want to talk about officiating. We didn't handle our business today. We got asses kicked.
And that was my issue.
And we need to figure it out on Thursday night. But instead he's like, oh, I don't want to say they got it out for me or whatever. It's like, oh, fucking boo-hoo, TJ. But you know what, though? Oh, I'm feeling it right now. Ooh, yeah. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
The Steelers won't win a playoff game this year. And if TJ Watt doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year, oh my God!
Well, he's not going to win it. He's going to need a huge run here.
Horror! Oh my goodness! TJ didn't win. Nobody gives a shit. I'd rather TJ Watt get me 12 sacks a year and win Super Bowls than to get 20 and not do anything and when it matters.
Preach.
Hey, Gene Steratore, you out there looking to the camera, buddy? I don't know. I don't know. I picked on Gene's territory.
I've purposely avoided talking about the Patriots because I think every one of us on this program and in the chat and listening on your own time or viewing on your own time knows this game is it might be a battle to see who gets to 5 points first.
Hey, 10 points.
Okay, 10.
The over-under is 31.5.
Which I'm thoroughly impressed by. 31.5.
I don't know if I would bet half that. That's,
take the
but
other.
I don't bet, so
Vegas-
don't take gambling
Vegas-
advice from me.
So Vegas is basically going for like a 19-13 game.
Oh, and if it's that, that would be high. That'd be on the high end right now, based on what I've seen.
I don't know. I think we're going to score some points. I also think
I think both teams are going to score some points because that's what happens in these games where you expect one thing, it's usually the other that happens. And Belichick's having an awful year, but the guy still knows how to coach. And he's had Mike Tomlin's number. He's 8-3 all time against Tomlin. It wouldn't be surprising to me at all if they cook up a couple things to get some touchdowns. So, yeah, but I don't even know who they're going to start at quarterback yet. I assume it'll be
that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to jump over if you had another point.
Nah, go.
Okay, so this is really interesting to me as I kind of tried to take a step back and think about this game and the short turnaround we had from Sunday's game to this podcast. But interestingly enough, both of these teams coming into this game have had to move on from their franchise Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, drafted a quarterback in the first round who is arguably quite mid, as the kids would say.
Yep.
That both quarterbacks had some hype. Remember when Mac Jones came out, people were like, "Oh, maybe
perfect Patriot quarterback.
Perfect Patriot quarterback. He's a game manager. He can make all the right reads. He's so smart. He's got all these intangibles. Yeah, he doesn't have a big arm, but he can make all the he's got the other things that they want, right?" And Kenny Pickett, a lot of the same kind of commentary. I'm not saying they're the same player, but these two teams have handled their quarterback situations extremely differently. Both of them have first-round pick quarterbacks who are not good, not NFL caliber quarterbacks. The Patriots, who have routinely...
You hear that, Pitt fans? Ian just said that your quarterback is not NFL caliber.
He has one touchdown pass in the last 7 weeks.
All
right.
Yep. He's a hater.
Not his fault.
The Patriots have routinely benched Mac Jones. Going back to last year, they
constantly
put Bailey Zappi in the game. They've put other guys in. They've come back to Mac Jones after other guys have stunk. They've had kind of a musical chairs of quarterback in New England here. Whereas the Steelers have kind of been we're going to ride or die with Kenny. If Kenny's healthy, he's our guy. We're going to go with him. Neither of these guys are that good. But, I mean, I don't know. These two teams have handled their quarterback situation very differently.
Fascinating to see where it's going to ultimately go, but it's not going well for either.
Yeah, but that being said, I think from a confidence standpoint for a young quarterback, I think what the Steelers have done is probably a little bit better, that they've erred on the side of we're going to let him try and figure it out on the field and not like undercut his confidence by benching him and playing somebody else. But
sure,
I don't know. Bailey Zappi's had a couple good games too, so I don't know. It's hard to say who's been better, but the two teams have handled their mid quarterback situations very differently.
Well, and I don't know if it was Matt or Jamie in the chat said something that we've said, about the aggressiveness almost being kind of coached out of Kenny Pickett.
And we've talked about that a lot on this show.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I mean, I think you can see it in his body language. You can just sense it. But to that point, we lose this game, it's done. Far as I'm concerned, because we're at that point, you got 3 games out of 4 on the road. Suddenly you have a Bengals team that has a kid that threw for 360 last night.
It's one game, man.
They're always one game. They're always one game. But
if Pickett did what Jake Browning did last night, I mean, I'm pretty sure the University of Pittsburgh would sink into the river. Like it would be epic.
It would be. Yeah.
Like if you think the Pickett Maniacs right now are just clinging to any fiber of being of their blue and gold god, and and if he did what Jake Browning did last night, like
Yeah.
even I would be like, shit, like
Oh, yeah.
okay,
You threw
okay.
5 incompletions out of 37 throws.
like damn, I'd be like,
You know?
okay,
I mean, and oh, by the way, he threw over the middle. Yeah.
He's also got like Jamar Chase that he's throwing.
Well,
to, but,
he does
that
have,
makes a difference.
fair,
but-
fair.
Huge
I mean,
difference. Jamar Chase was good even against us.
Yeah,
I mean,
Guy's a stud.
he's a stud.
I was told George Pickens is amazing.
He is, but
he
we don't
is,
throw him the
too.
ball enough.
Right.
But he doesn't.
8:15 kick
Pickens
coming
is
up
brilliant.
Thursday.
Do we want to talk about defense, that how they're using Minka completely in the wrong way?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I meant to get to that tonight.
He's a fucking box safety now. What
They-
the
They've
hell?
got him. They've got
They
him playing
played
like
him-
Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, they were. I was sitting there at the game watching this, and you can obviously see more about the defensive alignments in the stadium than you can at the TV view. But I was like, it's the first game back for Minka, and they're playing him like a box safety. I think I saw him blitz more than I've ever seen him blitz. Like they're bringing him off the edge. There was one play, I think it was a third down play on that 99-yard drive,
Yeah.
where they rushed 4. Minka was one of the 4, and they dropped TJ into coverage. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Like they're dropping their best pass rusher and bringing their best cover safety in on a blitz.
Yep.
Like this is insane. They're like outsmarting themselves here, and they're playing Minka in the box, and KZ is the single high. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's madness at times.
Yeah.
And that whole day was madness to me. It just
And they were doing it. They were doing it before Minka got hurt too, right? It wasn't just
that's
yesterday or Sunday. It was before he got hurt. They were playing him out of position. They were playing Neal and KZ at the 2 safety spots, and Minka is kind of a rover, which brought him in the box. And it just, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. So yeah.
Last week
I talked about this earlier.
Vinny's got a
Talk
good
about-
point in the chat here, that they want Minka to be Troy
Troy
2.0.
yeah. I talked about
he's
this
a
earlier
completely
this
different
season.
position. Minka is more of an Ed Reed free safety than he is a Troy Polamalu strong safety.
Agreed.
I talked about
Good
this
point,
earlier
Benny.
this season. Okay. Said it then. They're making him a box safety. He's not an elite box safety. He's an elite free safety.
Yes.
As a result, the defensive backfield lacks an elite presence. It hurts the whole defensive backfield, not just Minka, the whole backfield. Playing him out of position fucks them completely. I don't know what the hell Austin's thinking.
Wasn't that a big reason he wanted out of Miami? Because they were.
He wanted out of Miami because they played him at slot.
Slot, yeah.
Right. But I mean,
And they sucked.
yeah.
And Brian Flores was their coach.
Right.
Even though I said keep Brian Flores over Terry
Well,
Lawson, but whatever.
Yeah. All 4 of us took the Pittsburgh Steelers to win on Sunday, and
Never
we
Again.
went for the big offer. This week, I mentioned that Tomlin 3-8 all time against Lord Vader, and the Steelers, by the way, this year 3-0 in night games. 3-0. They'll be sporting the Color Rush unis this week, which I think we lost last time we wore those, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember. First time this year. But
No, we wore them once this year.
Did
already,
we?
didn't we? Or no, we wore the block numbers.
We
but
wore
not
the blocks.
color rush.
We
That's
haven't
right.
Yeah.
won the Color Rush this year.
Yeah. So there's some interesting numbers going, back and forth here. Scarbs, what do you got for a prediction this week?
Oh shit. Coming to me first. So I want to be clear that the Patriots offense is legit poop. Like it is so bad. It is so bad.
Second.
So
in the
bad.
league.
And they lost their best offensive weapon. Their two offensive weapons, their best 2 offensive weapons. Romario Stevenson is not going to play.
Right.
Demario Douglas might not play. But their defense is way better than ours. I'm not even being a dick. Their rush defense is
Their
solid.
defense is legit.
Good.
Their rush defense is solid. I know Jalen Warren gets some angry runs, and if the Steelers are smart, they give him some extra opportunities for those angry runs. I want to pick the
Say
Steelers.
it, man.
I want to pick the Steelers so bad. So bad. So bad.
Well, pick
But-
somebody.
I'm going to well, goddamn. Next time you're on a rant, I'm going to let you fucking hear it. I'm going to take the New England Patriots 12-10.
Hater.
Okay. We got 12-10 Pats. Ben, what do you got?
I agree with what Scarps said. I don't think this defense is that much better than the Steelers, but it's better than the Steelers. And it's a coverage-based defense. So if the Steelers are fucking smart this week and just stick to the goddamn run, we can win this game. If we start throwing it around all over the place, and yeah, Mitch is going to throw a couple of picks. And he might throw a couple of touchdowns too. So those kind of things, they kind of cancel one another out. I think this is probably going to be a pretty low scoring affair. I don't have that little faith in the Steelers offense here. But I'm going to say Steelers 13, Patriots 6.
All right. Okay, so we got 1-1. Ian, what do you got?
I was worried Ben was going to take my score because I was going to say Steelers 13-9.
Nobody's going 11-10?
No, I'm going to go 13-9 in this one. I think whatever one touchdown is, whoever scores one touchdown in this game probably wins this game. If the Patriots
so bad.
If the Patriots find a way to score a touchdown like they did when we played them last year, right? They hit that weird ass long pass to Nelson Aguilar, who can't catch anything, caught that pass over Akello Witherspoon down the sideline and scored a touchdown right before halftime. And then they ran the clock out at the end of the game. I think whoever scores a touchdown wins this game. Like you got to be able to put the ball in the end zone, and neither of these teams can do it. They're both bad. They're both really bad. This is going to be an ugly game. Yeah. The only thing I can say is if you're a fan of Iowa football and like to watch punts, well, don't watch this game either because our punter sucks.
Right.
So Johnny, who is in the chat right now, is an Iowa fan.
Okay.
You know that
Johnny,
that post you put on Slack. That post you put on Slack about the beer, the bar serving free beer until Iowa scored. Yeah, I sent that to Johnny.
Yeah. So Johnny, if you have any advice for Presley Harvin on how he can improve his punting, it would certainly be appreciated because he is so inconsistent that it's awful. It's bad. And yeah, this game's going to be bad. The thing I'm worried about is that Belichick is that old school kind of coach that he's like, I'll play a field position game with you. I have the defense. I'll just pin you back inside your 10-yard line and hope you turn the ball over or your punter shanks one, and then we'll kick a couple field goals. And I could easily see this game being like a 6-3 game in the fourth quarter. So, but I'll stick with the Steelers. I'll go 13-9.
You guys aren't very far off. I mean, 12-10, 13-9.
No,
that's not a lot of spread
13-9 might be too much credit, though, because that's three scoring possessions for both teams. So that might be giving them too much credit. It might be like a 10-6 game. But I'll stick with 13-9.
I think you alluded to it, as I mentioned earlier, too. I mean, Belichick's had an awful year, but the guy still can coach. He's always had Tomlin's number for the most part. And I can just see something happening that has nothing to do with either offense. A defensive score, a big special teams play, as we saw last time we played them. Thanks, Gunnar Olszewski. And I just, at the end of the day, I just can't, I don't have confidence in the Steelers right now. I just don't. I hate to say that, but So I'm going to go 12-10 Patriots.
Hater.
And
Patriots.
We both
Yep.
said the same thing.
Did you have 12-10 too?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said something different.
go 13-10. Give him a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll go
Couple of
13-10
haters.
then. Yeah, 13-10. My bad.
All right. Is
Yeah.
Casey in the bullpen here or what?
Casey in the bullpen?
I guess.
Do it.
Yeah. Kisses coast to coast, an American top party. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was December 5th, 1998. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me so you can see what's going on. Hey, Kenny, what's going on? Kenny, first and foremost, I hope you are well. Secondly, how did you not see a wide open Calvin Austin in the flat for an easy touchdown on the play you scrambled and got hurt? Thirdly, you have no pressure awareness. And fourthly, you cannot see the field. Fifthly, I'm not even blaming you for the loss, so hey, Pickett Maniacs, get off my ass. I don't know what was worse, watching the Cardinals execute a 99-yard touchdown where Trey McBride feasted and had leftovers on multiple occasions, or when down 2 scores, Deontay Johnson caught a meaningless touchdown and moved like one of Janet Jackson's backup dancers on the Rhythm Nation tour. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For my Janet Jackson fans, they'll get that
I
reference
got
to
it.
the
I
music
love it.
video. Casey, I'm done with Deontay Johnson. I'm also done with George Pickens, who joined Deontay's worthless celebration. I'm also done with the Mike Tomlin apologists. He hasn't won a meaningful game since January 16th, 2017, and in that game, Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. The week prior, he had beaten Matt Moore at home. Casey, I'm not sure if you know this, but Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. As Rich Eisen said, we're out of our frickin' minds if we want to get rid of Tomlin. Nothing like being patronized for just expecting more from your football team. On Sunday, Steelers running back Jalen Warren said that they took the Cardinals lighter than we should have. Tomlin on Monday said, this is professional football. We don't take anyone lightly. Deontay Johnson on Tuesday said, I feel like we just took them lightly. Not only do they have communication issues on the field, they can't even get it right off the field. They don't know who's on first. They don't know what's on second. But on third, they throw short of the sticks.
Oh,
Casey, this is a mess right now. But you know as well as I do that I won't stop watching. Bring on the rain delays. The Steelers are my favorite mistake. Ryan, thanks again for writing to us, making its debut on American Top 40 this week at number 23. Here's Cheryl Crow with My Favorite Mistake.
wow.
Cheryl Crow. Wow. I did not see that coming. Outstanding. Oh, man. Thanks so much to everybody who joined us on the short week. It is a Tuesday, and we still had most of our regular crowd here. So thank you guys. We love you. You're awesome. Shout out to Melvin. Safe travels, Melvin, as you go to the other side of the world. And hopefully you'll be able to see the game while you're shopping and stuff in those big malls there. Make sure you check out the site, stillcityblitz.com. Of course, we're all over social media and everything else too. And hey, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Maybe the Steelers can pull it off, get this ship righted, but who the hell knows? And hey, go Steelers.
Real quick
Ravens
before we go.
suck.
Sorry.
Yes.
It's sorry guys. It's state championship week for high school football in Pennsylvania. Western Pennsylvania's got 6 teams in
All right.
the state championship games, and there's only 6 classifications. So I'm wearing my Whippeal versus All Yins shirt tonight for the show. So go Western Pennsylvania teams. Check out my Whippeal Blitz podcast that previewed the state championship games.
Look at this guy.
Keep it going.
Self-promotion. And
right.
hey, go Steelers.
Yeah, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
There we go.
Ravens suck.
All right,
Shut the
everybody.
fuck up.
We did it.
God damn it.